Okay, last but not least, we have the quotient rule. Spoiler alert. This is for when we've got a function over another function. So again, I really want to point out, okay, that we can't just go through and do the derivative of the top divided by the bottom. That would be nice, but that is not how this works, okay? If you have a function divided by another function, that's when we have to use this quotient rule. Quotient, right, means dividing. So I'm going to have to think about this one. So it's the derivative of the top times the bottom minus the derivative of the bottom times the top divided by the bottom squared. And in this case, for the quotient rule, it actually is really important that you get this as the first term and this is the second term because of that minus sign in there. It's important that you get the order right. Okay, so if I want to use this rule to go through and take the derivative of this function here. So there's my top 3x squared, there's my bottom, and actually look at that, I did the same thing again. Let's call this thing h of x instead of, because then this thing here, this can be my f, right? And this thing here can be my g. All right, so if I was to write out my derivative here, I'm going to do it fill in the blanks again. So I've got the derivative of the top times the bottom minus the derivative of the bottom times the top all over, and then the bottom squared. Okay, so it's fill in the blanks. Here we go. I should also mention that different people have different tricks for memorizing the quotient rule. So I've seen people say, you know, the high d low, low d high. If that's a rule that sort of makes sense to you that you've seen before. For me personally, when I learned this, I always thought of it as top function over bottom function, and so when I'm doing the derivative, it's derivative of the top times the bottom minus the derivative of the bottom over the top over the bottom squared. And I remember that the top sort of looks like tib-bit. I know it's not. These aren't i's. They're apostrophes that mean derivative, but it sort of looks like tib-bit. So that's how I remember it. But other people have the rule of, how do they sing it? Low d high minus high d low over low squared, I guess. So if that's how you like to do it, that's fine. Okay, either way, find some way to kind of memorize this rule, but we have to figure out how to use it here. So we're filling in the blanks. So I'm going to plug in f, that was the 3x squared, and I'm going to plug in g, that was x plus 2. And then I guess I could fill in the bottom squared. That's just going to be x plus 2 squared. And then from there, for f prime, it's going to be the derivative of the top. Now I've got a constant in the front, so I've got 3 times the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. So that gives me 6x. And the derivative of the bottom, I've got the x. Now remember, if this is just x to the 1, right, using that power rule, you bring the 1 down in front and then x to the 0. So this is really, the derivative is just 1, right? And the derivative of the 2 is 0. So there's my derivative. Maybe I can write this out a little bit prettier without all my weird fill in the blanks. So 6x, x plus 2 minus 3x squared over x plus 2 squared. So I'd probably leave it like that for now. If they've just asked for the derivative, I don't think you need to simplify much farther than that. As we sort of progress farther in this course and I ask you to actually work out the derivative at a point, or if I ask you to take the derivative and set it equal to 0, then you might need to do more algebra to kind of figure out how to simplify. But I think it would be okay if you left it there. I would certainly give you your full marks for leaving it there. But I suppose there's a little more algebra we could do. We could, you know, FOIL this out on the top. 6x squared plus 12x minus 3x squared over x plus 2 squared. And then I can simplify the 2x squared terms together. 6x squared minus 3x squared gives me 3x squared plus 12x over x plus 2 squared. All right, so that would work too. But like I said, I think it would be totally fine if you left it here at this step.